How do you find men that are not in shape when you're talking business with them? Do you lose respect for them slightly? What's your opinion on that?
If you're across from the table who's somebody who's a slob, who doesn't have it all together, you can't really take them seriously.
What would you recommend to men that are potentially at that level where they're stressed, not in great shape, they're not financially independent right now? What would you say to them?
Got to get control over yourself.
So today is a very special day for me personally because it's my first official podcast for the Peak Performer podcast. And I thought it'd be no better than one of my good friends that I've met here in Bali called Jeff to be the first guest. He's been a great guy in my life here, pushed me to do a lot of more things as well. So I thought he'd be my first guest because he's great with business and a few other bits. And I'm going to get him to basically introduce himself and his backstory. And hopefully it motivates some of you, inspires you and all that good stuff. So yeah, Jeff, nice to be here.
I'm honored, brother. This is awesome. And I appreciate the kind words, but I got to tell you, man, like I respect you a lot. I respect what you're doing, and seeing a young guy that's going and getting it, not afraid to invest in himself and his business, like a lot of respect.
Well, I just want to do a little bit more of a backstory on you as well. So just everyone can kind of understand where you're in life, what you've been doing. So just a backstory on you, your business, things like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, big picture. So I grew up in Seattle, Washington in the States, was an athlete. I was a fat kid. And athletes was kind of my escape. That's how I first kind of saw the benefits of putting in the work, seeing success, and it actually paid for me to go to school. Okay, nice. Got a scholarship to play 2 sports in college. And in college, I actually was surprised to learn that I was going to be a dad.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so I was 19. Yeah. Not exactly how you draw it up, but it kind of changed the direction of my life in a good way. And got married at 19, had a son about 20 years old, and it kind of changed the direction. So I thought I was going to be a professional athlete. I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player, and ended up getting hurt and had to figure out how I was going to support my family. And so it was a little bit of a pivot. I got a good job working 9 to 5 doing management consulting. It was like at that point you either go the consulting route or you go investment banking, and that's how you really become successful. I quickly learned I hated it. I was traveling all the time, working 70 hours a week, not seeing my family, and not making much money. So about that same time, I was handed the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and it changed my paradigm to where I realized that there was a different route. Financial freedom was a real thing. You don't have to work till you're 65 to be able to enjoy life. And it just kind of changed the direction I went. And so long story short, I got in the investment world, which led me into real estate, and spent 20 years developing and investing in real estate, and was able to achieve financial freedom. And now I'm at a point, I effectively kind of retired at the age of 45. I'm 47 now. And now I'm off on some new ventures, which I'm really excited about. And I thought, retirement would kind of coast and everything else, but I'm working more than I ever have before. And I actually love it, though. So,
okay, nice. Yeah. So what is the new business ventures that you're doing currently? Yeah,
so really when I kind of stepped away from the real estate world, I was asked to join the board for a telemedicine company in the hormone optimization space. And so in that process, I learned a lot about the industry, saw kind of the players and how it all worked. And I realized I love it. I absolutely love it. Kind of marries business with my passion of fitness and everything that goes in that transformation. And I loved it. And so ended up starting 3 companies in that space. One that deals directly with the consumer, helping people with their hormone optimization, peptides, all of that. And then 2 companies where we effectively help other clinics. And so we provide them with wholesale medications and the best products out there. So a lot of different things going on right now, but I love it. It fires me up every single day, and it's really good.
Okay, so in terms of, if we go backwards then, in terms of getting into the space where you're at for the real estate, how did you actually get involved in that? Just for anyone listening who may potentially want to get involved in real estate, how did you go for it?
That's the thing, is like you read a book, right? It's like, okay, I want to do this. Yes. It's like, how do I do it? And you expect to be able to do it overnight, and that's not the reality. And so, I spent several years learning the investment field. So I first was in the traditional investments, managing money for folks, very wealthy people, and learned a lot about real estate along the way. And in about 2000, late 2004, early 2005, I started my own investment firm, and we spun off a fund investing in real estate. Okay. And it was awesome. Like, raised $80 million in less than 18 months. We had to turn people away because we were crushing it. And it was awesome. I was making a lot of money, flying private, going on awesome vacation. Yeah. All these, like, you're in your late 20s, you're like rolling, right? Yeah. And you're helping people, like you feel like you made it. And then 2008 hit. And unfortunately, the kind of real estate musical chair dance stopped, and we got caught in it. And I had to go, and I spent 3 years trying to get our investors their money back, and learned a lot about real estate and everything else that goes into it during that process. And that was one of the low points of my life, to be honest with you, is just having to answer to investors where they're questioning if they're going to get their money, their retirement, their, everything they've worked for. And and so long story short, ended up getting folks their money back. It was a long process. It was painful, but I learned a lot along the way. And one of those was that if I'm going to invest in real estate, I need to be in cash flowing real estate. I need to be in assets that even if things go bad for a while, there's enough to support the assets. And so I started developing apartment buildings, and that's what I did for just over 10 years, effectively building apartment buildings around the U.S. And that's what kind of got me to where I am today.
Wow. So in terms of the stress levels then you had at that point, how did that impact you, family life, mentally, when you were going through that period of the investment?
Absolutely brutal. I'd never considered myself a guy that got depressed. I was depressed, and I was never diagnosed. I was never on medications or anything. But I would wake up every day and just like I'd look at my computer and be like, "What am I going to do today?" It's like so depressing when you're on top of the world, and then you go back to nothing, and it's like, how am I going to support my family? Like, where's the end of this road here? And so it was hard. It was really hard, and as a result, my physical body suffered. I put on some weight. In my late 20s, I was doing MMA, and I was lean and feeling good. And going through my 30s there, put on some weight, and I was hitting the gym all the time, but just eating what I shouldn't be eating, stress eating, and it was a bad cycle. It ended up being really the downfall of my marriage, and it was a really hard period, and no fault of her. Like it wasn't, it was me. It was me, and it was just me not handling stress well, and just not getting myself right, And it took a long time to work my way out of that.
I think you had a lot of pressure to deal with. I think a lot of people understand that pressure, and obviously even probably you didn't at the point.
Yeah.
How would you say, obviously with your wife, is that kind of the breakdown of the relationship? Would you say was literally because of that business?
It certainly magnifies it. When you've got issues and you've got money issues and things like that happen, it certainly magnifies the issues, and it causes, to your point, a lot of pressure. And when you're under pressure as a man, you have to figure out how to react to that. And so, admittedly, like I didn't handle it well at times. And just worked a lot. Was very distant. Those kind of things. It was nothing crazy but it was just not being the partner that I needed to be. And so I've learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about relationships, and I'm still learning every single day. But that was a really tough period.
And how did you get out of that period? So obviously, you mentioned that you went from there to, financial freedom again. But how did you get from that period of stress, low anxiety, to going back up again?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I was really relying upon my faith. It was really relying upon my faith and just realizing that, everything happens for a reason, and I can overcome this. There's setbacks in life, and you just got to overcome. And so that was a big piece of it. And then just kind of moving towards the light every single day. Every single day, and just chipping away one day at a time, and just trying to tackle what's ahead of you.
Well, yeah. So basically, I met Jeff as well, by the way, from the gym here. So I really liked his shoes, made it come on him. But Jeff, how old are you, by the way?
47.
47.
I'll be 48 here next month.
Yeah. Honestly, the best. He's probably the best shape person I've ever seen at 47, 48 years old. So I was like, I'm very impressed by that.
I appreciate that.
I want to dig your brain a little bit more into that, because I think this is going to help a lot of men who are successful but not in shape, which is going to tie into your business as well. So what were you like before you were in shape compared to what you're like now, and how has that changed your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was an athlete. So I was always in the gym.
Yep.
Even throughout my 20s and 30s, even when I was out of shape, I was in the gym every single day. And, you see those people, they're in the gym every day, but they're not changing, because a lot of it is, what you eat and your hormones and everything else, right? Your stress levels, your sleep, all of those things. So I found myself in my mid to late 30s, going through relationship issues, rebuilding the business, stressed, all those things, working a lot, and just found myself really unhappy. And at that point, I had a decision. I could either kind of just accept that was the way it was going to be moving forward, and just try to make a lot of money, and be single and try to do it that way, throw your money around, right? Or you make another decision to do it the hard way, which is to get in the best shape of your life and to put the work in. I'm so glad I did it. I entered in my first bodybuilding competition and set the goal that by the time I was 40, I was going to get on stage. I did that. And it just had a ripple effect throughout my life. You know, when you finally get in shape and when you really dial it in, it helps your business. It helps your confidence. It helps your family life. It helps your relationships. All of those things helps my faith. And so that's what I was able to see. And I went through a transformation at a very mature age. I kind of rediscovered life.
And how has that impacted you with relationships, business now, things like that? How's that transformed that area?
My life is so different. My life is so different. I was in a city that I had been for 20 years. I up and left. My youngest son graduated high school, and I up and left that summer and moved to Vegas.
Yeah.
And just I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put if I can compete in a bodybuilding show, I can do anything.
Yeah.
So I dropped myself in Vegas where I knew nobody and crazy town, and said, look, I'm gonna just do that. And I've continued to make decisions like that have really been beneficial. Coming to Bali here is a perfect example of that, by myself. But I think you make those critical decisions, and they can have ripple effects through your life.
No, that's true. What would you say to anyone that is going at it alone then, to men that maybe aren't in shape, they're a little bit lost in terms of what they're doing direction-wise? How you've come to Bali on your own, you've had the confidence to do it.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to men that are potentially at that level where they're stressed, they're not in great shape, they're not financially independent right now? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think you got to take control. Like I tell people all the time, in order to lead others, you must first lead yourself.
Yes,
and a lot of times we're in charge of companies, we got a family that's looking up to us, but we're not really leading ourselves. And so I think that's the first thing, is you got to get control over yourself. And a big piece of that, what I found, and what I found personally was a lot of times our bodies aren't functioning the way they should be. And that's why we got into the hormone optimization space. And it's not to put people on testosterone or to sell medications. It's really to look under the hood and see what's going on in your body, because you might be hitting the gym, you might be trying to eat right, but if your hormones are off, as you know, it's really hard. It's like you're walking into a headwind. And so what we recommend is, if you're a guy that's stressed and struggling and not getting the results you want, feeling sluggish, you have brain fog, get some blood work done. It's affordable. You can do it discreetly, and just see how your body's operating, because that can tell a real story. Yes. And once you do that, at least and then you can make tweaks if you want to, and you can work with a guy like yourself to kind of get things right.
But it's surprising how many men come to me and they have these underlying issues of never even getting the blood work done. So they could be, I recommend anyone that joins my team between 30 to 60 to actually get the blood work done.
Yep.
Because normally they might be low on testosterone, and it's easily fixable stuff, but a lot of people go for the outside visuals rather than the inside, which is the main bit to focus on. And if you focus on that, then you're going to obviously improve. So that's why I was so interested when I actually met Jeff, because that's literally what you do.
Yep.
And you optimize men's health. So for me, it's ideal, because I don't think men realize how important it is to actually have these blood tests. But a lot of people don't want to pay for it as well. Remember, it can be expensive, but it's not good if you know to invest in yourself. But I've had clients with like $300, $400. Like, I'm not spending that. And I'm like, but you're going to see literally what's wrong with you. Like, So what would you say to people that are a bit hesitant to get blood tests? 'Cause I feel like it's still a thing where some men don't actually want to do it still. Yeah. What would you say to that in terms of, obviously you're a big condoner for it. What would you say?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I think there's a stigma, that was around, this hormone optimization, TRT, all of that stuff. I will tell you that it's really changed, though. I mean, when I first started TRT in my late 30s, so it's been about 10 years, it was taboo. It was weird. You kind of walked into a hormone optimization place, and there were just a few, and it was really weird. It was like you were walking into like a porn shop or something. You kind of keep your head down and you kind of sneak in the back door. And it's changed so much. Like, the stigma's over, man. Like, you go to the gym today, half the guys there are on testosterone, whether they're doing it the right way or the wrong way. Like, it's not taboo anymore. And I think people need to get over that. And I think the second thing is, it's going to cost. I mean, we charge $249 to do labs and a consult. Even if it was double that, it was $500. Like, you spend that on a dinner or a night out.
So true.
It's like, why not get control of your entire life and figure out what's going on? Like I said, it has ripple effects through your life. So you can make that $500 back in an hour when you get your business right and you have more motivation to go get deals done.
I agree. So if we talk about the actual hormone side, 'cause I think actually people don't understand what's involved. So could you explain the process of the blood test and then the key benefits of increasing testosterone, your thyroid, things like that?
I think one, you want to work with professionals, right? And so a lot of times, general practitioners or GPs, they can test your blood levels and markers and what have you. I would highly recommend going to somebody who does it for a living and are specialists in that field. From there, you can go into any, if you work with the professionals, they can send you to the labs that they work with, get your labs done. It takes 10 minutes to draw your blood. It gets sent off to a lab, and then those lab results are sent to the doctor, the medical practitioner, which they can go over with you and explain, like, look, your thyroid's down, and that's why you might be carrying excess body fat, or testosterone's, fairly normal. It's a little bit on the low side, but your estrogen levels and cortisol are way up. So it's just kind of like, it's like a well-oiled machine. You got to get everything working right in order for your body to be working right. And so it's really simple.
And in terms of testosterone then for men, because so a lot of clients that speak to me, they're like, I'm not sure if I need it. Obviously, you need to get a blood test first or a health marker test. What are the key benefits to taking TRT, for example? So if you're a man that is struggling with testosterone levels, what are the key benefits of it?
Yeah, I think the key benefits of testosterone, I mean, that's what drives us, right? As men, that's what drives us. So what we see is a lot of men come to us and they're lacking motivation, lacking sex drive, brain fog, carrying excess body fat, just not feeling like themselves, And so through TRT or testosterone replacement therapy, we can get you feeling back like you're in your prime, your mid-20s, And I'm, like I mentioned, I'm 47. I feel better than I did when I was 22.
And what would you say were the key bits for you that made you feel better? Obviously, energy levels, sex drive.
Yeah.
What else? What are the key benefits for you?
It took a little while because when I first started, like I mentioned, it was a little bit taboo. So in working with real professionals, a real TRT clinic, we can get optimized. And so it did take a while for me to kind of get it how I wanted it. But now, look, I wake up every day, I bounce out of bed, I'm not dragging to get up, I'm ready to attack the day. I keep low body fat all year round without much effort. I'm able to hit it hard in the gym aggressively and still have energy throughout the day. I don't get the mid-afternoon slumps. And there's a lot of different tools to do that, and it's not just testosterone. There's peptides, there's GLP-1 medications, there's natural supplements that can help. So it doesn't mean that you go get your blood work, you're going to be on testosterone for life. It means that let's look and see what's going on and we can optimize.
And when you're going about natural testosterone, so I've got pros and cons to that. I haven't seen actual benefits personally from taking it. What would you recommend for people that do? Because obviously a lot of people take testosterone boosters, in supplement stores. Are they worth buying or are they a waste of time?
Yeah, it depends. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the over-the-counter stuff. Like I had tried some of that stuff, and honestly, it can end up making things worse. To be really honest with you, but there's a lot of tools. Like as an example, there's things like enclomiphene and HCG, which can tell your body to produce more, and it's not exogenous testosterone. It's telling your body to produce more, and so you don't necessarily have to go full blown into taking testosterone supplements, through injections. You can figure out ways to get your body to produce more.
Okay. And what would you say to men who are in their 30s to 40s that markers are okay, but they want to maybe go on a cycle because they want to look like, they want to optimize themselves and they can't do it naturally, so they think? Would you say it's down to, would you recommend it, or would you say nutrition training?
I think it's a combination. Yeah, I think it's a combination. Certainly, there are tools to help you. We all want to look good. Let's be real. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you shouldn't do it. Yeah. We want to look good, right? And so, we can dial things up to make you look and feel like a superhero, to be honest with you. But people think they're going to take some testosterone and they're going to get jacked, and that's not reality. No. You got to dial in everything else and get it all working together, and then you can start to make some progress. But it's not the magic pill. I was on testosterone replacement and still carrying way too much body fat, and it's only through using the right lifestyle tools to get to where you want to get to. And
when we're going about lifestyle, obviously I've seen you eat very, very clean, very healthy. How important is that for a male, for one? Mindset, energy levels, things like that. Because you don't really have like dessert. I've never seen you eat a dessert or anything here. What is that like for you in terms of like a diet compared to that? How is that giving you extra energy and stuff? Yeah,
it's something, to be honest with you, Matt, I've really struggled with because when I competed, super strict. You're super strict for 16 weeks, and then all of a sudden you go off the rails, and you're cutting and bulking. And I finally reached a point after my last show about 2 years ago where I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to find a sustainable, flexible lifestyle where I can enjoy my life. If I want to go have dessert, I can and not feel guilty about it. Or if I want to go out to eat, I can. But what I figured out is it's about balance. It's about having a lifestyle where, I eat at home a lot. I make my own meals, but I love it. I love that food. I love oatmeal and egg whites now, which I thought was crazy. But I actually crave that in the morning. And then if I want to go have a burger, I want to go have a pizza, or I want to have dessert, My partner and I love to do frozen yogurt, and we do it several times a week. But I build it into my lifestyle to where it's not a detriment. It's actually positive to what I'm doing, and it's nice to be able to enjoy life and feel good.
I agree. In terms of staple meals, I feel like a lot of men get bored of food. Do you just recommend, cracking on with it and just eating the same foods, or do you recommend mixing it up quite a lot? So a lot of my clients personally, before they join me, struggle to stick to consistent nutritional plans or diets.
Yeah.
Would you say that you need to do that, or is it something you can kind of go off plan with?
I think, so being from the U.S., when you go out to eat, it's just so laden with all the salts and different preservatives and everything, right? That's addictive. And so it's really hard to break that if that's what you're having all the time. And so what I usually tell folks is start making your own meals, figure out what you like, and so I have about 5 or 6 kind of go-tos now, and I love them. Like I never thought, I was a guy that would eat out 3 times a day, every day. And now I crave the meals that I make, the healthy meals. And then so when I do go out and I do enjoy a nice meal, a nice steak meal or, dessert, I can appreciate it, but I don't crave it. Yeah. And that's a big difference. Food can be addicting, especially with all the stuff that's in our food today.
I think if you over-restrict as well, which we've both done in previous, you tend to crave foods more.
Absolutely.
What would you say then to men that do that? Is it important for them to find a new... so obviously for me, I like to have balance because obviously I want to have a life with it as well, and that's how you stay in shape, is making it part of your life. Yeah. What would you say to people that over-restrict? Because obviously men, we've seen it here in Bali, they want to be like a man's man, and they think it's like this optimal thing to kind of be stupidly strict. How do you find that in terms of balance long term? Because it's a short, for my personal opinion, it's a short-term result. Yeah. So what would you say in terms of that then? How can they find that balance if they've got a business, they're short on time? Do you cook all your own meals, or do you get someone to cook them for you? What's your best advice for that?
Yeah, I do both. I mean, first, when I was eating out all the time and transitioning, I got meal prep, right? And it just made it convenient. I wasn't a cook. I didn't have to make my own meals. It was a good transition for me. I reached the point though where I actually love cooking my own foods. I know how to cook it. I know exactly how I like it, and that was a real game changer for me, to be honest with you. I don't remember the second part of your question.
Are your meals pretty quick and easy then, or are they more?
Oh, super easy. Like I love like little wraps with egg whites or chicken. Like I'm on the run. Like I'm busy like you, right? I mean, we're all business people, and I don't have time to cook a 2-hour meal, And so it's quick meals on the go that I can get high protein. I like to feed myself protein throughout the day. I know some guys are into the fasting and different things and teach their own. I just didn't get good results from that. I need protein throughout the day, just small hits of it. And so I just have found some good options for me to be able to do that. And yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I know what you're kind of asking is about being over restrictive. And a lot of times when people want to make a change, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? And so they go to one extreme. And that's fine, but reality is like you can run away from pain, or you can be pulled towards a higher vision. And so one thing that I tell people, if they really want to make a transformation, is set what your vision is, set what you want to look like. I actually had a little vision board of what I wanted to look like.
That's what I. Yeah.
And honestly, what's crazy is 2 years later, I looked almost identical to that. And it's weird how that works. But I am more interested in trending towards a vision versus running away from pain. At first, you're going to run away from pain, and that's good. But then once you start to go towards a vision, you don't feel the need to be so restrictive. Like you're building a lifestyle. It's not a short-term fix, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. I want to touch on alcohol as well. So obviously, men that are stressed as well, busy, got a lot going on, tend to drink a lot. I know I've told you about my experience with it, but I've noticed you don't drink. So have you got a story behind that? Like, when did you stop drinking? Is it not something you've ever been particularly bothered about? What's the kind of script for that for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when I was in my 20s and living in Vegas, I'd go out and have some drinks, but the reality is, I don't miss it. I don't miss it at all. And here's the thing: like a lot of times, it's filling a need socially. Right? It's like feeling comfortable. And I just feel confident and be able to have a conversation with people, whether or not I have a couple drinks in or whether I'm completely sober. And so I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't particularly I actually do enjoy a glass of red wine, maybe once a week. And that's nice. I really like that. But I don't need alcohol. And, some people go to happy hour to kind of feel better about themselves. I go to the gym. and I feel a lot better. And so I walk out of there feeling energized, motivated, ready to go home and see my partner or go finish work. Whereas, you go do happy hour at the bar and, have some snacks and a drink, and you walk out of there like buzzing and hating life the next morning.
When did you stop drinking then? When was the point when you kind of realized enough was enough with it?
It was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, and again, like I haven't stopped drinking. I choose not to. I don't need it, and I have no issue with people that drink. I just think it's about in moderation, and I think it's about you really have to look at yourself and figure out, is this becoming a crutch? Is this becoming medication for me, or do I need to figure out some root issues that I can solve in other healthy ways?
And did you find it impacted your business and your physique when you were drinking more? I'm not saying you drink loads, but when you drank more, did you find a negative effect of it?
Well, you talk about like testosterone and stuff, and that's one of the things that we see frequently is that people that drink a lot, their testosterone levels drop, estrogen can rise, all those things. It really plays on your hormones. Like alcohol is a poison, and so it's just so much easier, to live the life I want if I'm not partaking in that, So, and look, I don't need to pop bottles and spend $1,000 at a club in Vegas, and that's stupid, and guys do that to flex and do different things. I don't need to do that.
So, what would you recommend for? Let's say you're a man now, you're feeling a bit deflated, you're not feeling optimized. What are the top 5 things that you'd recommend them doing to optimize their health?
Ooh, top 5 things.
In ranking order.
Top 5 things. I think start eating at home. Start making your own meals. I think that's huge, especially in countries like the U.S. and Western civilization. Right, our foods are it's tough. If you're eating out all the time, you're going into a headwind. It's really hard. To find something that you enjoy doing, whether some sort of physical activity. If you don't love getting in the weight room, find something that it is that you do enjoy. Just get moving, and it creates again momentum. I think momentum is a really powerful force, and it doesn't mean that. You'll never get in the gym, but you got to start somewhere, right? 3, I really think that hormone optimization and seeing where you're at is huge, especially for men as you approach your mid-30s. 40% of men over the age of 35 have testosterone levels that are in the toilet, and it's really bad. It just continues to get worse as our society evolves and changes, and things in our food and things like that. So those are the top 3. I think sleep is huge. Sleep is so underrated, and as busy professionals and entrepreneurs, we kind of get addicted to that grind, and it's almost like a rite of passage to not sleep and work through it. And I'm guilty of it.
You feel like it's like you not have to do it, but you feel like you've got so much work to do. You'd rather just not sleep, but you'll know when you've had a good night's sleep how much more energy you have compared to the night before. You've got I caffeinate up completely all day. Coffee all day. So I noticed that and by 3-4 o'clock I'm so tired. So, but I think a lot of people, obviously with families, kids and stuff, they do struggle with sleep as well. How important would you say sleep is for fat loss, muscle building, and just general clarity? I would say
sleep is as important as hitting the gym. I know some experts out there that will tell you you're better off to sleep that extra hour than to actually go and do that extra hour of cardio. It's that important. And the reason why is it really plays on your hormones. If you're not sleeping right, your hormones are going to get out of whack really quick. And that was a big thing for me in my late 30s is my sleep wasn't good. I was working too much. And as a result, my hormones went in the toilet.
It's weird that you say about the sleep thing, because I used to wake up and have like maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep to go and do cardio. And I found when I actually slept more and didn't do the cardio, I lost more weight because you actually still burn more calories at rest as you would anyway, because your body is so tired.
Exactly.
And your cortisol goes up and your stress levels that you may as well not do that.
Exactly.
So people that go to the gym, because have you been seeing these reels on Instagram where it's that guy with dunks his head in the ice? Have you seen it?
No.
There's a famous guy, basically, he's gone from like 5 million followers to 12 over a week or 2.
Oh, that Ashton?
Yes,
yeah.
I remember we were talking about him. And like, that's his morning routine. He gets up at 3:30, goes to bed does all this routine in the morning, which I don't know how he has time for, probably isn't real, and then he basically gets to bed at like 10, 11, so he has 4 hours sleep. That for me personally is not optimal. But then men are looking at that and thinking like, he looks amazing, he's super successful, so that must be the secret. What would you say to a morning routine then? Because for me personally, my morning routine is whatever works for me. What's your morning routine? So what's like yours?
So I was never a morning person. I was always kind of a night owl, and I'm like, I do best at night. Now I get up at 5 a.m. I mean, that's sleeping in for me at 5 a.m. But here's the thing. I told you the other day, like I start getting ready for bed about 8, and I feel like a nerd, but I love it. There's nothing I'd rather do than get in bed at 8 o'clock and call it a day, And so that's what I do in order to set up my morning so that I am rested. I can get my sleep. The morning routine is everything. The fifth piece of all this is stress management. And so for me, my morning routine allows me to attack the day, to put myself in a good mindset, a good position to really go about my day in the way I need to. My morning routine is it's reading, it's prayer, it's meditation, and journaling. And journaling is huge for me. And it's been something I always recommend to guys is to journal, to get your thoughts down on paper. It's one thing to think them, and it's another thing to write them down. And what's cool is you can look back over time and see how you were thinking at one point in your life and how you've grown. It's like it's like when we want to make a transformation, you tell people to take before pictures. A journal is a before picture in a lot of ways, right? You can see what you were thinking and what's going on in your mind, where you lose track of that.
And what would you, so say if a guy wants to start journaling, what would you say you recommend them to write? Things they're grateful for, things like that? What is it?
I think that's a great place to start. Yeah, I think a great place to start is gratitude. Being thankful. It changes your mindset. It creates a mindset of abundance versus scarcity. And that's something that I see all the time, is it's really hard to create an abundance mindset when things aren't going your way and the stresses of life. And so gratitude is a great way to start your day so that you position yourself for a mindset of abundance.
So say if you're having a stressful day, for example, when I spoke to you, you've got a lot of work on, and you write it down, does that help you then attack what you've got going on for that day in
100%.
terms of the stress management of it?
100%. Yeah. So, admittedly, like stress, being in the industries I have and everything that's going on, it's hard. Like there are times that you can't escape it. There are stressful situations. So what I've learned is to take a time out, to do some breathing exercises, to just take, even if it's just 3 to 5 minutes, and reset. Maybe journal a little bit what you're thinking about. It can reset your day. It's so easy that if one bad thing happens, all of a sudden it's this negative spiral down, right? 100%. And the rest of your day is just like, oh man. Yeah. So I think you got to stop it before it spirals. Get control, reset, and then start over.
I like that. I'm actually going to start doing that. Thank you.
It's something I've had to learn,
and
it's something I'm not good at. I have to remind myself all the time.
I think it's important that you, at least even if you don't say it to someone, you can visually see it somewhere. So it's kind of like helping your brain in a way, figure out how to fix it. Yep. If you had the biggest piece of advice for someone in business or starting a business, for example, what would you say to them?
I think the biggest asset people have is themselves, and people don't realize that. You have to invest in yourself, and you have to invest in your business. If you really want to be successful, you have to be world class at what you do. And in order to be world class, you have to be a student of the game. You have to read. It's like being an athlete. You got to practice. You don't just show up and be the best in your industry unless you're some phenom or some genius. But the reality is most of us have to invest in ourselves, put in the work. And again, you are your biggest asset. I tell my son, who's just starting his career, he asked me questions, should I invest in Tesla or crypto or real estate? I'm like, invest in yourself. Become world-class at what you do. The rest will take care of itself.
So in terms of lessons of running a successful business, how have you found the balance of your life from that? Is balance really available for you when you're trying to do business and fitness and everything, or is it one or the other?
I think balance is overrated at times. I think there's seasons of life. I think at times you need to be obsessed. You need to go all in.
I agree.
And if you don't, you're not going to get the results you want. But there's a time to pull back, refresh, work on your business instead of in your business. Take those intentional timeouts. Spend time with your family or your partner or whatever it is. But if you really want to be world class and build a world class business, you got to go all in. And that doesn't mean punching the clock at 9 and checking out at 3. You got to go all in, and you got to make a run.
I agree with that, because I think I was speaking to someone yesterday, and she's got a full-time job, doesn't enjoy it, doesn't make much money. She wants to start a business, and I said, what's stopping you? She was like, well, what happens if I fail? And she's not. I said, well, you've got nothing to lose, really, to be honest, because at the end of the day, you're not happy and you're not making any money. So what would you say to people that are scared of starting a business? Because I think a lot of people are just scared to start. What would you say to them to kind of make them think, I can do this?
You have to reach that point where you're so sick of the status quo that you're really willing to make that change. And until you do that, you can sit here and say, I want to do this and I want to do that. Everybody's got to figure out, okay, I've had enough. I'm ready to make that change. And that's the same in starting a business. That's the same in changing your body, changing a relationship. You have to reach the point where what you're doing now is not good enough. And if you were happy, you wouldn't even be thinking about it.
I think we are getting to an age now where there is a lot more online businesses, as you've seen. Obviously, everyone's I found that most people I meet have their own business now rather than work. And how would you find people that start a business, I tend to say, and quit because one, they don't know what they're doing, or two, they think it's going to be easier than what it is. What would you say to those people that are kind of on that fence now where like, it's not working, it's not going very well, I feel like I should go back to a job? What would you say to them?
Well, I think I have a friend that says there's a million ways to make $1 million. And today it's so true. I mean, you can make them. What's cool about being in Bali is you have people from all over the world making money in all different ways, right? And so there's really no excuse. There is zero excuse. Starting a business and becoming an entrepreneur and being a successful entrepreneur is so much easier than it was, 20, 30, 40 years ago, right? It's just so different. You can create leverage. You can create a lifestyle. And there's just so many tools. Like there's YouTube, there's books, there's all these things where there's no excuse. There's no excuse. If I was a kid today, I don't know that I would go to college unless I was an athlete or unless I wanted to be a lawyer or a specialty. There is so much opportunity. You're not going to learn a lot about business in school. Let's be honest.
Would you remember in school when I don't know if you had a business teacher, but when I look back now, I thought you didn't have a business. So what can you teach me about business?
Exactly. I mean, I was a Dean's List economics student, and I walked out of school, out of college, like I have no idea what business is all about. And I had to read books. I was a voracious reader. After Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I tore into books every single night. I'd spend hours learning business. That's how you learn business. It's not in college. It's not, learning from a professor who's never been an entrepreneur. It's figuring out what you want to do, creating a vision, and going and pursuing it.
We were talking about this before. It's making mistakes as well, isn't it? It's literally like you have to make mistakes, and people are scared to actually make the mistakes because they feel like they've failed. But it's how you actually grow as a person. And as long as you learn from those mistakes, you can only progress from there. Yeah. I think that's what people get scared of.
It's hard. And after 2008, again, going from the top of the world to the bottom, that was the biggest challenge. And to be honest with you, it's something that still haunts me today. To fail at that magnitude, it is hard to kind of get back on the saddle and say, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to put myself out there again and know that, I may fail. But you have to be okay with that because to your point, that's the only way you learn. Failure is the best teacher.
2 questions on that. Top 5 books that you recommend for business first. Go.
I love Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Think and Grow Rich is a big one.
Yep.
What other books do I like?
Doesn't have to be business related, but stuff that's kind of motivated you to kind of, or educated you in some
Yeah,
way.
I mean, I stick to the Bible because I think that there's some sound, not only life principles, but there's some sound business principles in there.
Go for 3.
Yeah, I think the top 3 business books that I would recommend would be Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and the Bible.
I like that. Okay, so if we talk about men 30 plus who are not in shape, how would you find the respect for them in terms of overall? Do you respect? So let's say you're walking through a room, you command a lot of respect when you walk through a room because you're in shape, and it's how it is.
Yeah.
How do you find men that are not in shape when you're talking business with them? Does that not say put you off them, but do you lose respect for them slightly? What's your opinion on that?
I think in the business world, we make snap judgments. In life, we make snap judgments. And if you're across from the table who's somebody who's a slob, who doesn't have it all together, you can't really take them seriously. Are they really disciplined? Do they really have it all together? And I think a man that walks into a room that's in shape, that they're doing some things right. And they do command respect. I want to do business with people that have discipline, that have some personal pride, that take responsibility. All of those things, and a fit body represents that. Not only that, but it gives you the motivation, the drive to be really successful and to overcome those hard times.
So as a man then, obviously you work with optimizing health, even yourself. What do you class as a high-performing man? So what would you say the ideal man is that you would class as high-performing?
So I think it's a couple things. It's a man that's on his purpose, and we just provide the tools for them to fill their purpose, right? So it's different for everybody, but to have the energy, to have the vitality, to have the aesthetics, the sex drive, like that's a high-performing guy, a guy that can go about his day, have the energy for his partner and his kids at night, and feel and look like a man.
In terms of then, if we go a little bit deeper with that for just a couple, in terms of family then, because I know you've been really busy in life, how's that impacted your family life in terms of kids growing up? I know obviously they're very successful. You've told me what they're going to be, but how's that impacted them in terms of that, and how could it impact other men when they're having to go all in for business, for example?
What I felt was I love my sons, and my sons have become very successful, and they saw how hard I worked. And I think what I really wanted to do was establish that. I wanted to establish a work ethic, and I saw it with my dad, and I wanted them to see that too. I wanted them to see the grind. When they were young, I did take them and fly private and fly first class one time.
Okay.
So they could taste it.
Nice.
And not get used to it, not get entitled, but taste it and see, oh, it's a little better than sitting in the back of the plane. I wanted them to have that drive. And it's really hard with kids today that do come from a successful family to not get entitled. And I think you really have to drive that home with them, is that, that establish that work ethic, that ambition. You can't feed them with a silver spoon. They have to work for it.
And how have you found, do you have people in your life or know people that have, children like that? I've met quite a lot of people who have kids like that, and I tend to find the children don't tend to have that mindset or drive to actually succeed. How would you get someone, if they had children like that, to kind of change that kind of route for them?
I've worked with a lot of those kids. I mean, in the real estate world, I work with some very prominent families who the kids are, grew up with everything, and the work ethic is just not there. Again, I think it's instilling those values. It's making people work for things. It's not. Kids have to fail, and you can't baby them. You have to let them fail. There's the participation trophy thing is well documented, but kids have to fail. They have to realize that the hard lessons as a child to be able to become the man or the woman that they're going to be.
What is the most optimal training split for somebody who works 4 days a week, trains 4 days a week?
The most optimal training split for me is I like to pair muscles. I like to get in and out of the gym in 40 minutes. Yeah, I get in, I get out, I hit it hard. I stimulate, not annihilate. And so it doesn't matter what muscle group I'm necessarily hitting. And I'm pretty instinctual about that. I don't necessarily walk into the gym knowing exactly what I'm going to do or what exercises I'm going to do. But I go in and I'm going to attack the gym for 40 minutes and I'm going to get out.
And if you're a guy starting out at the gym, then not really have a clue what you're doing. Is there a particular split would you recommend? Push-pull legs, bro split? What's the most optimal that you found works best for you for results?
I'm big with men. I call it the superhero workout.
Okay.
And what it is it's putting muscle strategically on your body in the places you want to put it. We can sit here and we can squat and deadlift and everything else, and you can build your hips and your lower back and everything else, and you're going to look blocky. I find that most men don't want to look like that. They want to look with that X frame, that V taper, right?
The kind of bigger shoulders,
exactly.
Tiny waist, yeah.
And so I used to do all that because I was an athlete. And so I used to train heavy. I used to squat. I used to deadlift and all that stuff. And I realized, I was strong. I didn't like the way I looked. And so I changed it to where I build a superhero physique where I concentrate on the muscles that I want to exploit. I want that aesthetic look where I'm never going to have a very thin waist just genetically, but I've created a frame that makes it look that way because I built my shoulders and my chest and back. And it's not that I'm neglecting my legs. I train legs, and things like that. It's just the way that you strategically go about building that superhero frame. And that's what I think most guys want to look like.
Yes, I agree. The guys that join my team, they'll just say, I want to build muscle. But I always say to them, how do you want to look? And they always give me the kind of V-taper.
Exactly.
And I always say to them, it is literally like aesthetics of what you're doing to build a physique. It's artwork in a sense. So if you bring your shoulders out more, it's going to bring the illusion of a smaller waist.
Exactly.
It's literally all kind of artwork in a way of what you need to do. It's not just build muscle.
Exactly.
Because ultimately, like you said, if you just keep trying to hammer the gym and really hurt yourself, it's not always a great look. You don't tend to look like anything special.
Right.
So it is just using your brain a little bit more on what you want to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, guys, they're like, hey, I want to put on 20 pounds of muscle. I'm like, you don't need to put on 20 pounds of muscle. Let's put on 8 in the right areas, and you will look like a freaking superhero.
Yes. What you tend to find as well, what I do with men, is when they're leaner, they look bigger as well. So a lot of men you go through a stage, especially if you're like kind of skinny fat, where you'll lose some weight and just not look great still. But then if you dig a little bit further, you end up looking a lot leaner, but still look more muscly, don't you?
100%. If I was a guy just starting off, I would focus on leaning out first and strategically building muscle along the way. But I would want to get leaner because what we see in the hormone optimization space is guys that are carrying a lot of body fat. It really wreaks on their hormones. They turn very estrogenic, and it makes it very hard. Okay. And so we give them the tools in order to get leaner while putting on muscle strategically.
Okay, I like that. It's good. So yeah, if you want to get in shape, lean down first. I actually always do that with clients because it's the easiest way to get quicker results.
Yep.
But also the fact that they feel confident as well.
Exactly.
Better energy levels normally.
Yeah.
Everything just optimizes, and if it's still low, you can optimize obviously with a clinic like yours.
It's interesting. Like if you were to start with somebody and you said, well, we need to put on muscle, and so they end up bulk, and they all of a sudden their suits get tighter and everything else. You're like, this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
But if they start to lose weight and they're like, their waistline looks good, and their wife says something to them, all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah. Everything you just notice, everyone gives you more compliments as well when you lose weight.
In your face, it's a different look.
And you feel better as well, even though you feel sometimes a little bit like not as big.
Yeah.
You actually look bigger, and you
look bigger.
The veins, like your veins, are like literally popping all the time, but your veins stop popping more, and you tend to look a bit better.
Yeah.
Final question then: so if you're a guy in your 30s to 40s, you've got a business, you've got a family, you don't have much time, what would you recommend for them? Maybe feeling a bit low on energy. What would you recommend for them to get in shape and also stay in shape?
Yeah, I'm big on. I don't think you need to be in the gym 7 days a week
Yeah,
in order to get in shape. I think that being strategic with your workouts and hitting it hard. Again, I do 40-minute workouts. I get in, I get out, I hit it hard. I don't mess around. I'm not there to talk. I'm there to get after it. And so if you can't find 40 minutes to work out 4 or 5 days a week, you need to create more margin in your life. And if you can't do that, then you really need to have a hard look at what you're doing. Your family deserves it. Your family will thank you for making that 40 minutes.
100%, yeah. And what would you recommend for nutrition then? Because that's probably the biggest bottleneck for most men is I don't have much time to cook. Obviously, I recommend meal prep companies or chefs if you can justify it. But what would you recommend for them? Because obviously you've got success, you've got in great shape while also being really busy. So what's the secret there for that?
I think prioritizing protein is key. I don't think most men get enough protein. But I think it is. I think it's just making that margin in your week, in your day. Get on the internet and order some meal prep.
Yeah.
Or cook up some protein throughout the week that you can just tap into. You can bring to work. I bring my cooler, places, and it's not like I'm, getting ready to compete. It's that I want some protein, and it's so hard when I'm in a meeting to go and walk over to the restaurant and get good protein. So I'll just dip into my cooler and call it a day.
You just use common sense, really. Basically,
it's all
a lot
common
of it
sense.
is common sense, and people try and always look for like a secret of getting in shape, but it is literally just sticking to stuff in common sense. What would you say if someone was looking to invest? Or they potentially weren't looking to invest in their coach, but they weren't seeing the results they wanted, and they wanted to get in shape. Would you recommend investing in a coach, personal trainer? What would you recommend? Because a lot of people get confused between both. Online coach, personal trainer. What would you recommend?
I would find the best online coach that I could. You can go down to your local gym and find a personal trainer, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. My physique changed when I hired the best coach that I could find online, who was a famous coach who worked with people that I wanted to look like.
Yeah.
And since then, I've invested thousands and thousands of dollars in coaching, and I don't need to do it now because I've now worked with 5 of the top coaches around the world and picked their brains on different things. Yeah. And now I can apply that to my life and to the lives of our clients that we work with.
Do you basically learn from them, which you should do anyway, how to get in shape with them and then stay in shape on your own and keep improving?
That's it. It's learning the tools.
Yes.
It's learning the tools, and then you can take those tools and apply them to your own life. And having a coach is so key to be able to teach you. We can, if you already knew what you were doing, you'd already have done it. And so a coach can help you to pull out of that, get you the right tools, and get you on the right track.
100%. Well, just want to say thank you for your time, and it's been great to meet you and obviously spend time in Bali with you.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, final thing, where can people firstly follow you, and then also as well with your clinic as well?
Yeah, so Instagram at jeff.sakamoto is my Instagram. People DM me all the time, and I'm always responding with folks, happy to help. And our company is called Biodosed, and Biodosed, we're based in the States. We work with all 50 states, clients in all 50 states, and our professionals are licensed in all 50 states, and we're happy to help folks.
Perfect. Well, I'll attach all on the thing anyway.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks for your time, bro.
Yeah,
Appreciate
bro.
you.
Thank you.